All right, so we are live. The button says we are live. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tiffany Hinton, and I am with GF Mom Certified. And I was invited to come on and talk to you about gluten by Michelle Parker. So, Michelle, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tiffany. Yes, I am Michelle Parker, based out of the Chicago area with Wild Tree. And I want to welcome everyone to this training today to learn a little bit about gluten and how it impacts our mission to help families not only eat simple meals, but also eat healthier meals and help this growing population of people who are impacted by a gluten-free lifestyle as well as allergies and such. So I am so delighted to have met Tiffany and to have connected with her on so many levels, but I'm excited to have her here today to share her story with us, a little bit about gluten-free lifestyle and how we at Wild Tree can really extend beyond our mission and serving others more than just selling them a product, but also providing a service and helping those people who are really impacted by having to change their lifestyle and live a gluten-free lifestyle. So, Tiffany, take it away.
All right. Thank you again, Terry, for joining us, and Michelle for setting this up. And for everybody that's actually going to take the time to watch this and listen, I encourage you to kind of stay focused throughout the short session that we have. Okay, somebody has their computer on speaker, and so I have an echo. 1 second. Let me see if I can fix this on my side or not. All fixed. All right. So basically what I'm going to talk about is kind of gluten and how you avoid cross-contamination of gluten and how you keep your guests safe, because in my opinion, Wild Tree is all about hospitality and feeding your family and just, you know, making food fun again and easy and convenient, but still so healthy for you. A little bit of background about me is I was raised in the Midwest, down home, southern type of child, and then moved to the city for a job. So I am out of the Chicagoland area now, and I'm going to share my screen here in just a second. And we will flip over to slides. All right, so everybody, can you see? I'm assuming, let me check one thing, and we'll be good to go. Yes, you can see that. Perfect. Okay, so basically, like I said, raised in the country, moved to the city for a job. That I think is the story of a lot of people. Best-selling author, business owner. I consider myself a super mom. I had 3 little girls under the age of 3. So we had 3 in 3 years. And then we're a gluten-free lifestyle expert. So a little bit about my background and my story is when I was growing up, I had issues, stomach issues, intestinal issues. At one point, I started bleeding from my intestines, which is scary. Was told at a young age I'd never have children, and I really wanted kids. So at the age of 30, actually, I started fighting with my doctor because I wanted that dream of still having those children, even though I'd been told for years and years that I'd never have children of my own. And we found a reproductive endocrinologist who was a blessing to our family. He basically, through going through treatments, he tests you for everything and anything imaginable, even though you tell him you don't have it. He still will test you because he only treats people that have a really high percentage of being able to get pregnant. Well, in doing his testing, he found out that I had the celiac antibodies that were positive in my bloodstream. So basically what he had me do was we went gluten-free, dairy-free, and sugar-free for 9 months before we could start infertility treatments. And then after we did that for the 9 months, we started the IVF process, which in itself is a very emotional component, but also learning that you have a gluten issue is emotional in itself. So there were a lot of emotions going on and a lot of stuff, you know, and it's just a crazy life. But at the time, I knew that the only way to heal and the only way for me to move forward was to change my lifestyle and to go. And I found when I went gluten-free that I started to heal. My intestines quit bleeding. I was able eventually to get off all of my medicine for my colitis and my other autoimmune disorders. And it was amazing what just the diet could do for you and just that whole process. So that's kind of a short little background of me. I've been gluten-free for quite a few years now. Like I said, we have 3 children that are under the age of 3. Our first one, Francesca, was born 6 weeks early, and at 3 days old, we found out she had galactosemia. And when she's already in the NICU because she's way early, and then you're told she has this scary word of a disease, and you have no idea what it is, you kind of are like, oh my gosh. So we went to Children's multiple times with her. Come to find out, galactosemia is a liver disorder. She's missing enzymes in her liver that break down lactose. And in talking to the doctors, I was like, all right, so what do we do, you know? And they're like, well, she just can't have dairy. And I was like, it was a huge relief for me. It was, oh my goodness, I'm already dairy-free anyway, no big deal. She also has gluten sensitivities and has had reactions to gluten. Liliana, our second child, is gluten sensitive. She's anaphylactic to peanuts and to tomatoes, and then she's also allergic to nightshades, which besides tomatoes, that's onions, green peppers, potatoes, and she's allergic to American cheese. Not dairy in general, but she reacts to American cheese. And Lily reacts either anaphylactic, where she has the coughing and the swelling of the throat, or she has eczema really bad, blotchy skin, hives. So that's how Lily reacts. Josie is our newest little girl, who's not in the picture. She is currently 6 months old. She's just coming off of being breastfed and starting to eat food, and so I'm very cautious on what we give her, and we try things for very long periods of time just to make sure she's not having any problems. And currently, so far, she's been great, but again, she's never had any gluten in her life, and it's one of those things our pediatrician now says that I shouldn't even try it on my children until they're 2 years old so we can know if they're reacting and they can communicate. So I'm going to move right into this stuff. Gluten-free in your home, and that is what's important, especially as a Wild Tree representative, is making sure that somebody's home that is gluten-free or needs to be gluten-free stays that way and stays safe for their family. In our company, we're all about being vocal about it and being advocates and sharing our knowledge, but also sharing with others that we have food allergies or food sensitivities, just to make them aware, because if they don't know, then they can't be at fault for something because they didn't know. So in our house, it's completely gluten-free and dairy-free. I know if the girls eat it at home, they can have whatever they ask for, and I don't have to explain or offer another choice. If your house is not completely gluten-free, or you're visiting somewhere that's not completely gluten-free, there's things you can do. Like you could have a special cabinet for gluten-free snacks, or a whole drawer in your refrigerator they could choose from. We offer several things like fruit and vegetables as snacks, besides regular other food that we have during meals. So one of the first things I want to talk about is deciphering labels, and labels can be so important. And a little bit of background. I know a lot of you already know what gluten is, but I'll tell you really quickly, and I don't need to get into a whole big discussion on what it is. Gluten is a protein that's found in the wheat, barley, or the rye. It's made up of 2 separate kinds of proteins, and that is basically what makes gluten. And the reason people are celiac is because their bodies don't, or even gluten sensitive, their bodies don't know how to break down that protein, and so the body thinks of it as an invader or a germ, and it starts to attack it, which increases your white blood cells, and in doing that, your body starts to attack itself, similar with other autoimmune deficiencies. And it's similar for other food allergies, too. Basically, with the food allergies, it's the protein in the food that your body's reacting to. It's a foreign object to your digestive tract or to your immune system, and it doesn't know what to do with it. So it starts to, attack it like it's a germ. Package labels have to, in the U.S., contain the top 8 allergens. So they have to tell you if there's milk, wheat, peanuts, tree nuts, soy, eggs, fish, or shellfish, but they don't have to tell you anything else. So it doesn't have to tell you if there's barley. It doesn't have to tell you if it's got gluten in it. It doesn't have to tell you if it's got rye. It only has to say if it has wheat. So there's things you need to look for when you are reading package labels. And this comes into play on anything that you would be mixing in with your wild tree spices or just in general that you'd be using as a complement for the meal. You need to look for keywords. And keywords, well, I'll give you a list of keywords, but other keywords you could definitely look for wheat, barley, and rye. Or you need to also look if a lot of labels will say it contains, and the contains is kind of bold. And in the bold, it'll tell you if it contains any of the top 8 allergens. The other key thing for people that are hypersensitive or have celiac disease is if it was manufactured on equipment that also manufactures products with wheat. Because again, it's not going to say gluten, but if it is manufactured on equipment that also manufactures products of wheat, then it's cross-contaminated automatically. You can't really get around it. So here, what I'm going to talk about is kind of transforming your pantry. We'll go through that, and we'll go through how to, we just kind of talked about the deciphering of food labels. So manufacturers, aka on gluten, right? So what are those, and what do you look for on food labels? There's a huge list. This is the list for what we call the aka on gluten. It includes the wheat, which they have to list in the U.S., modified starch, modified food starch. If it doesn't particularly say it's corn, then you have to assume that it's gluten, that is the modified food starch. Malt flavorings, natural flavorings, dextrins, maltodextrins, these are thickening agents made with wheat, wheat flour, thickening bran, wheat germ oil, renana, cereal filler, couscous, seminola, rusk, soy sauce, lagers, beers. Monosodium glutamate is a huge one. That's MSG. So that is gluten. That will make people sick. It gives them headaches. It is gluten. So you have to look for things that have no MSG. Rye, barley. Triticale is also found in a lot of body care products along with food. Bulgur, durum flour, graham flour, kamut, and spelt. Now, you can text GFMOM to 44244 and I'll send you this list along with some other fun stuff. So you don't have to write all this down. But if you do this, we'll actually send you out the slideshow so you can use this to teach your team also or your downline. All right, so what do you got to look for in your kitchen? And this is, I mean, as the whole hospitality component comes into play, this is so important. You want people to feel safe. If they have a food allergy, they already normally will feel alienated, or they feel like they can't get involved. A lot of people, I find, are not necessarily afraid, but they don't want to feel ashamed, so they're almost embarrassed of their food allergies, so they don't tell you that they have an issue. They'll come to your house, and they're the people that say, oh, I ate at home. I don't need anything to eat. Or I'm not hungry right now. The truth of the matter is, normally they haven't eaten at home, and yes, they're hungry, because I've done it myself. But they don't feel safe eating food you've prepared because they for whatever reason, they don't know that you understand the differences in gluten. So it's just making them aware that you completely understand, that you get it, and that you're there to help them. One way you can do this is if you're hosting a party or you're sending out invites, you can always put on the bottom or even send them a separate message to everybody in your guest list, a little email that says, let me know if you have dietary restrictions. Just by asking that question, do you have dietary restrictions, people kind of feel relieved. They're like, oh, they have empathy for me. They understand. And they're going to let you know, oh, I'm allergic to gluten. Oh, I'm allergic to peanuts. And they're going to, kind of work with you a little bit more instead of coming to your house and saying, I'm not hungry. So let's talk a little bit about the actual transforming in your kitchen. Pans, dishes, glass, plastic, gluten invaders, shared appliances. I mean, where do you start? It starts at home, the education and the training. You've got to start in your own house before you can actually go out and help anybody else. So pans and dishes. At home, we personally use a lot of metal, and I use a lot of glass, bakeware, and glass dishes because they're the easiest to clean. The thing to keep in mind is if the container has rounded corners or it's a round bowl, you can't really get crumbs stuck in there. Like I said, food allergies and gluten issues are because of the proteins, and proteins stick to things like lint on black pants. I mean, I don't have another good analogy because that is the best for me. You can never get all the lint off a black piece of clothing. Never, ever. And that's like gluten. So if you've got bread pans that have little tight, crisp corners, or cake pans that have these little corners because they're, that style of pan, the protein and the crumbs get in those corners, and you really can't get them clean. I mean, you're sitting there with probably a toothpick trying to get all the stuff out of the corner of the pan. It's not ever going to be clean enough. So if you go with a glass pan or something that's already rounded out in the edges, it's so much better. So much better. The other thing with glass and metal is they're easier to sanitize and scrub. With a protein, you can't just dip it in bleach. It doesn't kill the protein. You actually have to scrub it away. So you can get a steel wool pad, or you could pick up a salt scrub and you could actually scrub. I actually suggest for cutting boards that you go with a glass or a plexiglass cutting board instead of wood, because a wooden cutting board is going to hold the gluten, and so you can't be sharing it. In my sister's house, they actually have colored cutting boards, which is kind of cool. They know that, you know, the green one is for veggies, I think she's got a red one for meat and a white one for chicken. You could do the same thing. You could have, this is the gluten-free cutting board, this is the regular cutting board. But again, stay away from wood. If you love to cook with wooden spoons or bamboo, once you go gluten-free, you need to have a separate set, or throw out the old ones and get brand new ones that have never touched anything with gluten before. And that's what we did in our house. I just got rid of all of that, and we've got all new bamboo bowls and, you know, wooden spoons that we've had after we went gluten-free, because we basically went in our house and filled up trash bags of stuff and just threw it out when I knew I had to change my diet. Utensils are another big one. So you don't want to go with plastic spoons. You want to stick with the old metal spoons, or even the newer silicone-based utensils, which are better for, you know, a scratch-resistant pan anyway. And then bakeware. I would definitely stay away from stoneware if you've used it with gluten-containing products, and stick with more the glass bakeware or the metal, so that you can definitely get it really clean and it's not porous. Okay, plastic versus glass. This is key. So scientists no longer ask if toxic substances migrate from plastic to food during microwave heating. They actually ask how much toxins migrate. Now, if plastic is migrating into the food, we know the food is migrating into the plastic. So when you microwave something and the plastic starts to break down, it also, like I said, the food is migrating back into the plastic at the same time. So the plastic is picking up the proteins of the food that will cause the reactions and the allergies. So in our house, we use a lot of canning jars and the Pyrex glass storage containers and a bunch of that kind of stuff. I mean, you could even save and recycle your pickle jars or your jelly jars to store food in versus plastic containers. And then you can just stick the glass jar in the microwave and microwave it, and it's so much safer for you. So it's not just about BPA and plastic. It's actually about the food getting into the plastic and then cross-contaminating your dish for your person in your family that has the food allergy. Big, I mean, you can see this if you ever have microwaved spaghetti sauce. Your dish is automatically orange. It never gets clean again. It's stained for the rest of its life, whether it's Tupperware or cheap plastic. It's just that way. That's the breaking down of the toxic parts of the plastic. And again, it's going into the food, and the food's getting into the plastic. So to avoid cross-contamination and just, you know, to raise awareness of, you know, keeping somebody safe, it's just so much better to use glass for storage and for reheating. Okay, gluten invaders. And this is where the whole hospitality part comes into play. I mean, you've guests in your house, you're a guest at somebody else's house, you've got family coming in and out. I grew up in a huge family. I had 52 first cousins, so I definitely get the whole potluck theme, the Friday night game nights, the, you know, soup lunches at grandma's house. I understand all of that, from buffets to, you know, food on the sideboard just for snacks, but also gifts of food. People love to receive food because it's a show of, you know, of love, but it's also a show of you taking concern and care for their well-being because you're giving them something of substance, and that's been around for generations. So when you know somebody has an allergy, like a gluten allergy or an intolerance, for you to go the extra step and give them food that they can take and they can actually enjoy and eat themselves is like a blessing for them. It's such a treat when somebody shows up at our house knowing that our family has gluten sensitivities and undiagnosed celiac disorders, and they bring us, you know, a box of gluten-free bread or a gluten-free muffins, or they bring, you know, something, and they point out the fact that they thought about us, because it's not that they say, oh, it's gluten-free, you can eat it. It's that I know. I notice the packaging on the labels. It's something I've basically trained myself to do, so I know immediately that they actually took the time to think about it and not just pick up, you know, something simple from a bakery. They thought about what we could actually eat, and when they brought that over, that's awesome. So with Wild Tree, you guys, the first time I was introduced to Wild Tree was through a gift. And a lady brought me a basket, and in it, it had a thing of organic blueberry, little container of blueberries that she had already washed them up for us. And then she had a box of the Wild Tree muffin mix. And it was all, wrapped up with a little bow. And as soon as I opened it, of course, the Wild Tree packaging says gluten-free on the front. But I was like, oh my gosh, she just gave me everything I need to make muffins. And what's so funny is Frankie, our 3-year-old, is all about muffins, and she says muffins with T's. So these muffins, and as soon as she saw that we had opened it, I think our guest had been gone maybe 30 minutes, and we were making muffins because she wasn't going to stop asking for them. And it was great to be able to say, sure, we can have these. We don't have to give them away to somebody else. You can eat these. And it was just so fun. So that's just, so easy to do with a prepackaged product like that. It's all safe. And it just makes people so excited. And you could add any kind of fruit with the muffin mix. Okay, shared appliances are huge. So a lot of houses, not the whole house is gluten-free like my house. A lot of houses, they share everything. And not everybody can afford a kosher kitchen, right? And some of you are probably like, what is a kosher kitchen? Well, in the north side of Chicago where we live, a lot of houses have kosher kitchens because of the faith base that lives around here. And so they have 2 sinks, 2 counter spaces, 2 of everything. Well, not everybody can have, 2 kitchens, basically. So you got to come in and you got to think, okay, what do I got to do so I can share existing stuff? Well, for toasters, if you don't have 2 toasters, they actually sell toaster bags. And so you can get toaster bags, and you can put the gluten-free bread in the toaster bag and toast it. And then you're good to go. The other way I like to do toast, if somebody doesn't have, multiple toasters and I don't have toaster bags with me, is get a cookie sheet, lay some tin foil on it. Foil is your best friend when you're gluten-free. Put your bread on the sheet, stick it in the oven. You've got toast, and it's not cross-contaminated because it's on the foil, which is fresh foil, freshly clean. The other thing, parchment paper works great. You could do the same thing. In a toaster oven, you always want to use the top rack. So if there's any food particles on the top rack and you stick your item on the second, like the lower rack, it doesn't drop down in the cooking process and contaminate your food. So I always use the top rack in a toaster oven. Same way in an oven, you pretty much want the gluten-free food on the top. Food processors, definitely go with a separate food processor. Same way with a serrated knife. You cannot get all those crumbs and those proteins out of the little holes in those blades. You just can't get it clean enough. So food processor is one thing. And they have mini processors now you can get. So you don't have to get a full-blown food processor if you've got somebody that's gluten-free. You could just get one of those mini choppers. They'll do the same thing. Broiler, just use your foil. Outdoor grill is a lot of times very, very cross-contaminated. Nobody thinks about it, but the grill grates never actually ever get clean again like they were from the manufacturer. So you can either wrap your food in foil, like if you're doing a fish or a chicken, just make a foil packet, or lay down a fresh sheet of foil, grill your food over the foil, and then you're good to go. And you're not. And the other thing we do at barbecues is we cook all the gluten-free food first. Most of the guests or the host have no problem doing that. Like, they know our family has allergies. They don't want to be the ones responsible for making us sick. So I always, throw a bag of foil or a box of foil in your bag when you go, and then just say, hey, can you cook mine first? They're like, no problem. They'll lay the foil down. They'll cook your food first, move it off, put it in its own pan, and then cook all the regular food for everybody else. Things you got to watch when you are gluten-free, though, and you're doing, like, the barbecuing and the different things, is seasonings and spices are key. Now, Wild Tree makes a host of gluten-free spices, so a lot of that is good to go and safe, but if you're in somebody's house that doesn't necessarily have, the gluten-free spices, you kind of want to watch what they're using. There are certain brands that are certified gluten-free. There are other brands of spices that are not, or that add flours to keep them from sticking together, kind of like sugar does. So people sometimes add a piece of white bread to their sugar so the sugar doesn't stick together. A lot of companies do that for their spices and seasonings, so you just got to kind of be careful there. Another key thing with big parties or hosting and just hospitality stuff in general is those aluminum foil, I call them pans, but that you can buy at the grocery store, and they're like those one-time cook. A lot of people get them, I know at Thanksgiving for the turkey, so they don't have to own a huge pan. Those are great too because they're one-time use, or even, you buy a set, they're only for gluten-free food when you have a particular guest over. The rest of the time you just kind of keep them put away so they don't get used, and they're always safe. They're so inexpensive. They're a great resource. Okay, gluten-free labeling at home. So even if you're doing up little packages, right? If you're gluten-free, or you live a gluten-free lifestyle, you know what the GF stands for. The GF in the circle is the FDA symbol of gluten-free certified. So I mean, that's just common. And everybody that's in the gluten-free community is aware of the GF with the circle around it. So of course, that's where we use our stickers. We offer stickers. You can find them on our Pinterest board. And you can print these on sticker paper. I particularly use a circle punch, but you could also use scissors. And they are safety identifiers. So you could put these on your casserole dish. You could put them on your packaging, like if you've wrapped it up in cellophane, you could just stick that on there, or on, any little thing that you're doing to let somebody know that you thought about them. Or if you're going to a big event and you're taking a dish and it's got gluten-free, muffins in it. Well, stick this on, something on your little box or on your package, so people that are going through the line and picking up stuff at a shared event know that, oh, these are gluten-free, I can have them. It's an easy identifier. It makes people feel like they can eat again and they're not like excluded. Chamber of Commerce events, anything like that, that you can be that extra person. We recently had a baby shower at my corporate job. And I know personally, just, in hearsay and rumors, that there are other gluten-free people within my department. Not that we talk about it, but I went ahead and I brought extra gluten-free cupcakes, labeled them, stuck them on the counter with the big cake that they had for the company, for the baby shower. And it was so, for me, it was fun to see that people would pick them up and they were excited. They would smile, their eyes would kind of twinkle. They were like, oh, somebody thought of us. It wasn't that they needed to know that I did it. It was just the whole idea that I took that extra step knowing that somebody else would enjoy it besides myself. So again, you can get these gluten-free stickers off my Pinterest board. You can download a full sheet in a PDF and just print them on sticker paper. We also sell them on my store. You can get them, and you can just purchase them, and I'll have them already for you. Okay, free resources. So again, you can get the slides, so you can use this training for your team, and also for, if you're going to a Wild Tree freezer meal workshop and the host is gluten-free, or she's got people coming that are gluten-free, these would be great tips and tricks to share with the hostess to make her guests feel wonderfully welcomed. So you can text GF Mom to 44244 for that. Great ideas. So this is my brand new cookbook. It's called Gluten-Free Mom. Well, it's GF Mom Celebrates Heritage. Excuse me. All the recipes in it are gluten-free with a dairy-free substitute. Things like the savory spaghetti sauce that's in here actually use the Wild Tree mix, and it just makes it easier. It's a little bit more savory than just putting the stewed tomatoes with the Wild Tree mix. It's got some extra stuff in it that gives it great flavor. Chocolate pie. The reason I listed this is that you could so easily use the chocolate mousse from Wild Tree in the chocolate pie. Make the crust from the cookbook, put your mousse in, and top it with your Cool Whip, and you're good to go, and you've got a gluten-free chocolate pie. Pizza sandwiches can be done with the Wild Tree pizza mix, and you could use, and then the bread mix that you guys have, you could do monkey bread, which we have a recipe for monkey bread, French toast. There's so many options and things that you could do using all the Wild Tree products to make extraordinary meals. So there's a link here where you can go and purchase your book directly from me, and then with this link, then Michelle will get credit for the book sales. Now, things I want to tell you about. If you decide to purchase a Mom Certified Celebrate Heritage Cookbook, you get a lot of freebies with it. So you get free stickers that you can download for your hostesses and for your guests, or for in your own home. You get resources to help people with how to, lifestyle tips or children's tips, because what do you do when you take a kid with gluten allergies to a birthday party in the neighborhood? We have all of that stuff, and that's it's resources that are only available to members, and the way you become a member is basically, or what we call the Mom Club, is purchase any of my products, and then you're automatically a member. So that's how you do that. I am going to, at this point, flip back, unmute everybody, and see if we have questions. Let me do one thing here. Okay, now we will unmute. Right? Somehow it should unmute. 1 second. I've never had it not get unmuted. Can you guys unmute yourselves at the top? Up above in the bar, there's a thing that's muted. Can you click that and unmute yourself? There you go. Terry, I hear you. There you go. Okay, do you have questions?
Tiffany, thank you so much. This was so helpful. Just, learning myself about the gluten-free lifestyle, and it's so important. Like you said, just coming from a place of service and hospitality to always be looking out for our customers and their friends and family who may be gluten-free. So I really appreciate it. Extremely helpful.
You are very welcome. I want to make sure if anybody had questions, we get those answered, because I know sometimes life gets busy and then you don't always get back to what you thought you were going to do or ask. So let's check and see if we have any comments. 1 second. There we go. All right, I'm not seeing any. So with that, if anybody has any questions or comments, definitely feel free to shoot them over to me on Google or even email. You can find me online at gfmomcertified.com. And then also it's tiffany@gfmomcertified.com for email, and I will get you answers to anything that you need or resources. If you need particular resources, we can do that too. Got a wealth of different people I can put you in touch with for just, small things. So thank you again.
Thank you, Tiffany, very much.
You guys have a great day.
You too.